thoughts on this new boom of virtual racing, especially in the wake of coronavirus lockdown.
Well, I think this new boom of racing and virtual racing has been brilliant. It's given everyone a real focus. It's been quite difficult for a lot of people not knowing when racing outside is going to happen again.
It's great to see the women's tour leading the way in virtual races, especially as it's a race that I think lots of riders were looking forward to most on the calendar.
It's been brilliant to see how the cycling communities really embrace the world of virtual group rides and races as a way of staying connected and really engaging with each other during this lockdown period.
I think it's a great opportunity, especially for us racers, to get this race feeling again. I mean, I think we have all been missing the adrenaline, and I think it's a great opportunity also to test the legs.
What type of strategy do you think will be successful in this race?
Well, tactics in virtual racing I think are almost non-existent. You have to have a strategy though, and that's to make sure you're concentrating the whole time. If you can surprise the group and launch an attack towards the finish, then it can work.
Virtual races tend to be really intense. As they're quite a bit shorter than real races, they tend to be all out from the start.
And it seems like you kind of have to go from the gun like a crazy person, which you'd never do in a normal race. We all get to sit behind the car and have a chat and, you know, maybe have that one last little snack before things get really hard.
It's just 3, 2, 1, full gas.
By having things that we can do online, we've been able to have a focus, we've been able to tailor our training, and we've been able to get stuck into some different types of racing, so it's been brilliant.
We're still able to engage with the fans are still able to watch our race online, and I just think it's something that's really enjoyable to do, and you still get that race feeling even though you're in your dining room.
Hello and welcome to stage 2 of the ŠKODA V Women's Tour, 35.7 kilometres today, finishing with a hilltop finish of 1.7 kilometres up to Burton Dassett. Thanks for joining me, Martin McDonald, with Joanna Rousel. We will be taking you through today's action, but Joe, if yesterday is anything to go by, we are in for a treat today. Savage, brutal were the words that were coming out on social media.
Yeah, it really was a brutal race. So the race split quite early on, riders getting shelled out the back of that peloton. I think only 19 riders left together at the finish, then a huge sprint at the end. I thought Lizzie Banks had it quite easily, but it all changed on the line with Danny Christmas taking the win. So fantastic racing, really enjoyed it, and really looking forward to seeing how today's event unfolds.
Well, if you weren't with us yesterday, this is how yesterday's action unfolded. Can the Drops team now try and lead this one out? Illy Gardner still the rider on the front. 300 metres now towards the front. Here comes Lizzie Banks up towards the front. Lizzie Banks, 200 metres to go. Opens up the power. Danny Christmas is chasing her hard. Is it going to be an opening stage victory for her as they come through? Faulkner comes through just on the line. Are they going to snatch it? Danny Christmas snatches it on the line. Illy Gardner, Amelia Sharp, gutsy move by Lizzie Banks, but Danny Christmas comes through, takes it from Illy Gardner and Amelia Sharp. There's your results. So Danny Christmas from Illy Gardner from Camster-Fosse. Amelia Sharp, well up there as well. Kristen Faulkner from TIBCO Silicon Valley with Leah Dixon. Lizzie Banks there, great move by her. She crossed the line in 6th. Then Joss Loudon, she had gone with an earlier move of Danny Christmas just before the finish. And we can see Danny Christmas and Elizabeth de Vocht, the director sportive. Danny, a fantastic stage victory yesterday. Take us through that run in towards the finish. We saw you put that big attack in with a couple of kilometres to go. You still had the power to come through and take the stage.
Yeah, she did amazing. As I said yesterday,
maybe 2K
she did
to go, 3K to go.
a lot of,
and
I think a lot of trainings on that course also.
I don't quite know how you do the virtual flick of the elbow to make her come through to do a turn. So I tried to back off a bit, and then we ended up getting caught again. So lesson learned for that. But I was feeling good. So I thought I'd slightly mistimed the finish, but I think my avatar did a good lunge for the line, so sneaked it in the end.
Hi, Lisbeth. You must have been delighted with that win for the team. How much are you able to communicate with your riders during the race, and what you're expecting from today's stage?
During the race, it's almost impossible to communicate with our riders because they are so focused on the race, and they want to do their best, of course. So they won't have a cell phone nearby. So it's hard to communicate during the race. But I try to motivate them before the race, and I'm really looking forward to this next stage.
And Lisbeth, in terms of the stage, you lost one rider yesterday. You're down to two riders. Do you think team tactics can come into this race today?
I think TIBCO, teammate of Danny, has to smash it on the climbs, and then the others have to chase her, and Danny can. As you can sit in the wheel, I don't know. I never did virtual racing, but I hope she can sit in a wheel. And I don't know how it feels on such a trainer.
And Danny, you've got that virtual leaders jersey. Can we see you defend that today? Are you confident on this hilltop finish?
I hope so. I guess we'll see how the legs are feeling. I can definitely vouch for. Virtual race has been pretty brutal. That was my first proper hit out in a virtual race, and I can confirm that the legs are still nipping a bit from yesterday.
Well, we wish you all the best today. We'll let you crack on and get ready for the start, Lisbeth. We'll do our best to try and check in with you during the race. Good luck today. There's our start line. You can see the riders getting ready for the off. So all getting lined up. Joe, the warm-up's so important with how quick these starts are. There's Danny Christmas in her virtual leaders jersey.
Yeah, warm-up, absolutely crucial for this sort of event. It goes really full gas from the gun. You want to be fully warmed up, fully ready to go. So runners will spend a good probably 20, 30 minutes, if not more, doing a really full warm-up on their turbos for these events.
Here's our riders. Lizzie, thoughts ahead of today? Almost nabbed that stage victory yesterday. Confident about today? You rode well here in the Women's Tour last year. Top 10 finish.
Yeah, it was really abysmal conditions when we were in Burton Dassett last year for the Women's Tour. So despite the rain here in the UK today, I think it's going to be a touch warmer. It's definitely my kind of finish today, up a steep, short, sharp climb. So I'm going to give it everything I've got. The timing, as we saw yesterday in e-racing, is always quite tricky, but I'm just going to go hard as always and, give it everything.
Hi, Amelia. Well done for your third place yesterday. How are your legs feeling today, stage 2?
Yeah, thanks. They're pretty sore this morning when I woke up, but went for a spin out on the roads, just back home on the Isle of Man, and feeling better and ready to go again now.
Eiley, quick, we've got 40 seconds before the start. Confident for today?
Yesterday was a pretty good day, but I'm sure today will be even harder, so excited to get going.
You were looking good yesterday, Kristen. Are you looking forward to today's course as well?
I think we've lost Kristen. We will let them concentrate on the race action. We are just a few seconds away now. You can see everyone getting going. Danny Christmas taking that stage ahead of Eiley Gardner, of Cams Tifosi, the young British rider, and Amelia Sharp. 2 seconds to the off, and away we go. There's your leader's jersey. Danny Christmas wearing that. Joe, looking at these starts, it's we saw in Taylor Wiles before the chats, when we as we came on air, she was saying we get to roll out, we have a chat, maybe take that last little snack. This is almost like how we start on the track sometimes. As you will know, when you go into a fast points race or a scratch race or something like that, and it's right from the gun. There's no messing around.
Yeah, exactly. So for track racing or for crit racing, town centre racing, warm-ups are absolutely crucial. So the riders that are more used to those sort of races, time trials as well, will be really sort of well accustomed to their own personal warm-up routine, what works best for them. A lot of the road pros might be used to sort of doing more of a gentle spin on the rollers before the start and, you know, sort of a leg loosener. But it is absolutely crucial to warm up as hard as you can, because it is going to be full gas from the start. The race yesterday was less than an hour long, so it is a short event, so it's crucial to be ready to go straight into that red zone once the gun goes.
49 riders from 18 teams are taking the start today, and there they are, all in their pain caves, or as we've affectionately called Danny Christmas setup, her patio of power. She is there. You can see everyone, all their setups, which is quite interesting to see just how the riders get this one set up and ready for the racing. Katie Hall, you can see there from Bull Dolman's got a hilltop finish. Could suit her today. Taylor Wiles. Look at the effort from Taylor Wiles. Watch that Trek Segafredo team. I think, Joe, today that the Taylor Wiles and Ruth Winder could be good bets for the stage today. And there's all your nervous DSs.
Yeah, we've got a lot of big names we can look out for today. I think yesterday would have been a steep learning curve for those that aren't accustomed to this virtual racing. There would have been a lot of lessons learned, a lot of conversations overnight and this morning between teammates, with team managers, discussing how they can change things for today, discussing how tactics might change. We heard Dame Sarah Story say in the opening credits there that can be very difficult to implement tactics on a virtual race like this, but certainly there would have been a lot of lessons learned across the board yesterday. Anything from how to work out your warm-up to sort of how to apply power on your smart trainer. So today could be a very different race, and of course we've got a completely different course as well.
And you can also see, if you're checking in today for the first time, how quickly the peloton moves around on the side of your picture. So April Tacey on the front, Eiley Gardner, it is from Cams Tifosi, that's up there. And yeah, apologies to Eiley. We've been doing some test events with her for the past few weeks, and she was too polite to tell me that I was pronouncing her name wrong. So big apologies to her. And I also, from the ŠKODA Academy, we've seen her up there already towards the front. Rebecca Richards, who was on the start list as Rebecca Richardson yesterday, so I had a proper Anchorman moment yesterday, so apologies to Rebecca's fans and supporters. A few of them let me know on Twitter that I was adding the Richardson, not Richards, so apologies for that. Good to see the Italian flag getting up there. Maria Vittoria Sparotto from Big. Look at Katusha there, very much to the front here. Lizzie Holden flying that Isle of Man flag for the Biscaya Durango team. Joe, when we think back last year to the women's tour, we were commentating that one. This for me was one of the best stages of the season in a lot of races. We had Cassia Nuviadoma that took the stage at the top of Burton Dassett, head of Leanne Lippert. Lizzie Deignan was up there just 7 seconds off the lead. That set her up for the overall victory. But Amy Peters, Demi Vollering, Lizzie Banks, who said took a top 10, she was 6th up here. Leah Thomas, Lisa Brenner, Christine Majerus and Marta Cavalli with the top 10 when we finished up here last year. But we had that amazing lead out from the Canyon SRAM team to set up the stage for Cassia Nuviadoma. We've got the finishing climb, 1.7 kilometres, just under 5%. Do you think it's going to be interesting to see on the virtual roads that we've got here how much that splits things up? Because we've got 2 laps of that finishing climb.
Yeah, absolutely. So last year's stage at the Women's Tour, it was an absolutely brutal stage. It was pouring with rain, and I think it was one that everyone was looking forward to. It was a very long stage, over 140 kilometres. So today's race, virtually just 35 kilometres, but we're still taking on this climb 3 times. So we're going to go up the climb, then we're going to have 2 laps to go, and then finish up the climb. It's about 1.7 kilometres in length, and the smart trainers will react to the real life gradient. So the software uses GPX files to really replicate the roads as closely as possible, and it's amazing how realistic it is when you're on the smart trainer, how it really does kick up, and you can feel your legs lock up, and you can really feel that change in gradient. It's ever so realistic, so riders need to be ready for that. And I think a lot of riders will be thinking about this as sort of 3 really sort of big intervals in this event. But as I'm saying that, we've got a bit of a group here sort of putting clear about 90 meters gap for these few riders on the screen at the moment.
Yeah, just this little breakaway group have quickly got cleared. Joe Tinley is up there. Lauren Stevens from TIBCO. We've got up there as well. Eiley Gardner. So 114 meters up the road there as well. So our leading group, Joss Loudon, is in this group as well. Danny Christmas, you can see, just in those chasers, so starting to get the formation of a leading group here. April Tacey on the front, Meg Dickerson is also there, so just starting to split up early here.
Yeah, so seeing some splits early on, so we're going to also have a lot of tired legs from yesterday. It is a stage race, of course, and with most riders based in Europe, they'll be racing in the evening, so it would have been today a lot of thinking about how your legs feel, which can be quite a psychological game when you've got all day to think about your race coming up in the evening, and sort of trying to weigh up, do you go for a little spin out on your bike in the morning, do you do a little bit on the rollers, do you just rest up and sort of save it all for a big warm-up? So prep on race day is very key. It is a stage race at the end of the day. A lot of people went very deep yesterday. We did see a lot of riders, a lot of splitting up of the bunch as we went through the stage. So it'll be interesting how those tired legs respond to the racing today. I think we're seeing Sarah Story currently leading this group, which is seeing the graphics on the left of the screen with the riders who are up there. Corrine Hall as well for Story Racing. At the head of the field here, again, that team riding really strongly as well yesterday.
So it looks like from that was our chasing group that we could see with Danny Christmas and Joss Loudon in there. We've got Laura van Regen Mortel on the front for the Bieler Crush team. Another rider that's been riding well over the last couple of weeks. Dutch marathon mountain bike champion is Laura. Abby Van Twisk is in there in that group. Lucy Gads of Story Racing. Looks like again have placed all 3 riders in this group. Corinne Hall is up towards the front. Julie Solvang from the High Tech Products team is also in there. There's the chasers just in the distance. So the head-on shot here, you can just see that chasing group behind. Emily Meakin for drops. So starting to get the formation of this leading group. Early move. Katie Scott now goes on the offensive for the Cams Tifosi team. And already straight from the off here, you can see that the peloton splintering under the pressure of the attacks at the front. We saw Taylor Wiles, that US flag. We saw how hard she was working. Definitely the tactic of Taylor Wiles to go hard from the gun here. So good move from the Trek Segafredo rider. So the roads here heading towards Burton Dassett. So these are the magic roads, as we call it in the RGT platform. So this, as Joe said, follows the route, follows the GPX file. So it changes the smart trainer. So each rider at home on their smart trainer, it changes the resistance as they rise and fall. A few of you sent me some messages on social media saying it looks a bit like the Florida Keys. But when we get to the final stage tomorrow around Canary Wharf, we're on the real roads, and you'll see the difference in their phenomenal final stage we will have tomorrow. 35 laps of that 1 kilometre circuit. But our race leader, our overall leader, looks like she's got some work to do to try and get back into this group. And again, Joe, we're seeing familiar names from yesterday and a few that missed out, the likes of Taylor Wiles.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, like I said before, yesterday would have been a steep learning curve for a lot of riders, just in terms of this virtual racing, using this platform, getting used to how to respond to the smart trainer. A lot of cyclists will spend a lot of hours training on the turbo trainer, but that's very different when you're doing your own interval session and you're sort of in charge of the training session. This is very different because the trainer is reacting to the software, it's reacting to those gradients, and if you're not ready, it can really catch a lot of people out. So I was sort of expecting things to get shaken up a little bit today, with a lot of people really getting to grips with it yesterday and learning how they respond to it and how best to race in this scenario. So a few different names up there, but then also a lot of the familiar names that we've talked about a lot. Seeing a lot of British riders riding really well here as well. Of course, it would have been a home tour, the women's tour, but everyone looking really strong here, and this peloton moving very fast. So around the 60k an hour mark there.
Also in there, Lucy van der Hart is from the High-Tech Products team. Strong team that they've got in this race of High-Tech Products. They definitely have set their stall out on this one. As we were saying yesterday, Lucy had a great win in the Dubai Tour earlier on in the season, took a stage win there as well. But one of the performances was up to the hilltop finish at the Hatterdam, I think it's called. That was one that people were particularly pointing out, where Lucy kind of came into her own and really showed her versatility on a hilltop finish.
Yeah, Lucy, very, very talented rider, multiple junior world champion. And it was brilliant to see her to take that victory back in, I think it was February this year that she took that win in Dubai. And it's a shame for riders that have hit the 2020 season with good form and then had to have all the racing stopping in March. So it is nice that we have got this opportunity now to race virtually. It's interesting to see which riders have been able to sort of maintain motivation during this time. It can be really tough when you haven't got races on the horizon. It's a long winter of training. Some riders haven't even raced at all this season before lockdowns happened globally, and now this has given a lot of people a chance to sort of get that racing edge back. And a lot of people, or most athletes, you're an athlete because you want to compete, not because you want to train. Some riders like just training, but some do. Most absolutely love racing. So this really does bring out the competitive spirits, and you can really see in the sort of facial expressions how hard everyone is working when we've seen those turbo trainer shots.
They are indeed, and we're hearing that Leanne Ganzer's had a mechanical on the start line, which is a shame for the rally rider. And I think we're going to hear from the rally director sportif and the rally director here, Zach Bell. Zach, are you with us? Okay, we'll jump in with Zach as soon as we can hear from him. Another rider that I just want to point out in this leading group is Britt Knaven from the team NXTG. And Britt, young rider, just 19 years old, representing Belgium from this new team NXTG, the only under 23 UCI women's team. She's got designs on winning Paris-Roubaix, like her dad did. She's already won the youth Paris-Roubaix, and good to see her here in this leading group. On this climb, you can see the road is rising, and again the group just starting to splinter just a little bit now under the pressure of this climb. Few riders here just trying to hang on to the back. Joe, for riders like Britt coming into the race season proper, we're starting to get that glimpse now, but we've also now got the first Paris-Roubaix on the calendar.
Yeah, a lot of people very excited about that. So right at the end of the season, we're going to see hopefully the first ever women's Paris-Roubaix. So obviously it's a huge event in men's cycling, but as far as I know, there has never been an elite women's one, certainly never in my career, but it has got a lot of people talking, a lot of people very excited.
There we can see Leanne Ganzer's just off the back of the group. We've got Zach Bell here. Zach, real shame for Leanne having that mechanical on the start line. What happened?
Yeah, we're not sure. It was just maybe a connection problem just right at the inappropriate moment or something. But her avatar just sat for an extra 4 or 5 seconds before it got going. So yeah, it was a little too bad, but she's going to finish out the stage and we'll have another go with her tomorrow. We still got Krista up there to fight the good fight on the hill today.
She's got Heidi Franz for company here. As a team for rally cycling during the sort of global lockdown, have you managed to keep the team motivated? How much involvement and chat have you got with the riders on a weekly basis?
We're actually communicating quite a bit and have been really active for our sponsors on some other campaigns, including some healthy habits that we're trying to spread across our family. You know, whether it's employees at UHG or Rally, or even just our friends and family. So we've actually been really busy, which is it's a good thing. It's not busy with the same kind of racing, but definitely busy spreading the kind of messaging that we do with Rally Health.
And your thoughts on virtual racing? It's been such a great way of the global cycling community coming together, and it must be great as a team to be able to kind of connect with the followers and fans of the team and ride out with them virtually. Do you think the racing side of this is here to stay?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like a new discipline in the sport, I think, and you know, we've definitely engaged new fans and new people through these platforms. So, you know, I think it just gives another thing on the menu for people who enjoy cycling, and that's a great thing for the sport and a great thing for teams, I think. So I think we'll see more and more of it even as things move forward.
Well, we'll let you concentrate on the racing. We wish Leanne all the best with the rest of the stage today, and knowing what she's like, she'll be back fighting for a stage win tomorrow around Canary Wharf.
Yeah, she'll be hungry. Thanks a lot.
Zach Bell there. So you can see now this leading group: Lauren Stephen, Lizzie Holden, Leah Dixon, Krista Dobell-Hickox is also in this group. We'll try and get that full rundown and makeup of this group. Joe, that climb really started to split this leading group. There was a lot of pressure on there. Looked like Lauren Stevens from TIBCO Silicon Valley back. She was very, very much to the front on that climb.
Yeah, I think we've got about 10 riders now in this leading group. Lauren Stevens, like you say, incredibly strong, leading over that climb. Sarah Story put in a good counter-attack as the gradient sort of levelled off as well. And this really quite a select group here. And as we're looking on the left of the screen, we can see riders sort of sitting around sort of 3 to 4 watts per kilo at the moment. We were seeing over 6 watts per kilo when they were on that climb. So some serious effort. That is climb 1. 2 more to go, with the final one being the finish as well.
There's Lizzie Holden, you can see on the left of your picture. Kristen Faulkner from TIBCO on the right. Lizzie Holden working hard. She's from the Isle of Man, out of the saddle. So you can see the makeup of that group. So Katie Scott is another rider that's made it in there. Eiley Gardner also in there. The 2 Camps Tifosi riders, Joe. Katie Scott and Eiley Gardner. I have been so impressed with them through the test events and yesterday's stage, as Krista Dobell-Hickox now just makes a move. But there's your second group on the road. This is the group containing Megan Dickerson, Abby Van Twist, Taylor Wiles. Meg Dickerson is also in this chasing group. Abby Van Twisk from Trek Segafredo. So they're chasing hard to try and get back in to this leading group. And it's really is quite a select group now that we've got at the head of the race. I was just saying, Joe, the Camps Tifosi riders, Eiley Gardner and Katie Scott, they could catch the attention of the sport directors here, and when they get back into the bunch as a sport director, you kind of remember those names, and if they're out on the road and they start to hear them in breakaways, it could be a really good stepping stone here, just putting their names out there to some of the World Tour teams and the development teams, because I know that Simon Howes has done a great job with moving Anna Henderson on to the World Tour with Team Sunweb, but they're really making the most of their opportunity here.
Yeah, definitely. So both those riders were in the front group yesterday. Eiley Gardner coming second overall and leading the best young rider classification as well. So definitely a lot in pro cycling and getting those pro contracts. You know, everyone says, you know, you let legs do the talking and you go out there and you get the results. But a lot of it as well is about getting your name out there and talking to people, networking. And we've obviously had a very, very strange season this year. You know, we've not had all the bike racing that we normally have, but virtual racing really really is giving that platform to a lot of riders to really show themselves. And you can't hide here. You're all on your smart trainer putting down the power, and the results speak for themselves. So I think it is a golden opportunity for these young riders to really show that they can compete with the best. And they might not have the endurance to last the longest stages at the moment, but they're only going to develop that over the years. So yeah, very promising for young riders here.
So Kristen Faulkner just on the back of the group, and also in there Leah Dixon. So we've got Story, Dixon, Stevens, Dobo Hickok, Lizzie Holden, Katie Scott, Turnja Bikus, Emily Meakin, Megan Barker, April Tacey, Victoria Gilman and Kristen Faulkner as all the riders that I can pick out at the moment. It just ticks through quite quickly on the left of your picture, so we'll get confirmation of our group. The orange jerseys there of Rally Cycling. So the two riders, Leanne Ganzer, her two teammates. Leanne Ganzer having that mechanical on the start line. Heidi Franz is back with her teammates. Story comes through to the front. Big powerful move again by Sarah Story. Katie Scott reacts. 20.5 kilometres we have to go, just over 15 kilometres we have covered. If you're just joining us today, welcome. This is the ŠKODA V Women's Tour, Stage 2, 35.7 kilometres, finishing on the hilltop finish at Burton Dassett, 1.7 kilometres in length. Just under 5% is the climb. There's Lauren Stevens from TIBCO Silicon Valley Bank. Good to see her up there for that team. Starting to look here a little bit like they might be trying to work together a little bit, which is difficult in the virtual world. There's Lauren Stevens. Rachel Hederman, the TIBCO Silicon Valley Director Sportif, is with us. Rachel, welcome. What were the instructions to the team? You've got two riders in this leading group.
And that was the first instruction. Was we knew it was going to split early and then split over the climb. So first instruction was to make it into the front group over the climb, and I think we have two, if not all three, of our riders that have done that. So that's a good start. And
in terms of yesterday's stage, what was the feedback afterwards?
It was hard. Yeah, I mean, all virtual racing is, but yeah, it was a brutal stage that, I mean, you could see by the fact there were less than 20 riders made it to the finish in the front group.
And in terms of you as a director sportif, normally you're driving the car, tucking into whatever finities that the soigneurs have put in the pockets of the car door, or at least that's me anyway, just munching through whatever you can find in the team car. As a sport director, the nerves still the same in virtual racing? Can you kick back a little bit when you're driving the sofa?
Well, I mean, we don't have the driving to do, but I mean, I have my setup here with various screens and a race radio with the riders, so it's kind of just as involved as in real life racing.
Well, we'll let you focus on the racing. All three riders in this leading group, as you said. We wish them all the best for the finish.
Thank you.
We got Lauren Stevens on our screen here as well. Just she's looking very comfortable there, Joe.
Yeah, it's really interesting seeing the shots of the riders. Normally when you're racing your bike, you can tell a lot about how your competitors are feeling by bits of body language. People have little tells, like they might sort of drop a shoulder if they're struggling, or they might start to sort of wiggle about on the bike a little bit more, fidget a little bit more. But you can't tell that when you're racing virtually, because all you can see is these avatars. But for us watching, we can see these shots of the riders on their turbo trainers in their pain caves. And it really is quite telling to see who is looking settled, who is looking strong and in control. We're almost halfway through this race. We've been up the climb once. It has been a brutal race from the start, but like you say, Lauren Stevens looking nicely in control there, and definitely this Team TIBCO have got three riders here, Kristen Faulkner, Leah Dixon and Lauren Stevens in this group, so incredibly exciting for these three American riders.
Are indeed. Now, if you're watching the screen, you'll see all the numbers on the left, and I think this is what I'm liking here, Joe, in terms of the numbers that we're seeing. It's almost like a bit of Formula One that we've got with all the data. We're going to speak to Stephen Sargent from Bigler Katusha. Stephen, thanks for joining us. Lizzie Banks, gutsy move yesterday. Just had that stage win snatched on the line.
Yeah, correct. We actually spoke about it earlier this afternoon. It's about timing. We had Emma there as well, and where Lizzie was maybe a little bit too early, Emma was a bit too late. So yeah, that's virtual racing, and yeah, at the same time we're learning as well.
We can see already that this stage with the hilltop finish at Burton Dassett, it's really shredded that peloton. The start is so important, is it, in this virtual racing? That the riders have got to be so warmed up when they hit the start line.
Correct, because I mean, once you start pedaling, when you see 0 seconds, you're in fact already too late. But the warm-up as well is important. I mean, we're already sitting probably an hour and a half prior to start on the turbo. So yeah, if you come in and you're called, then obviously you're going to be driven out of the peloton straight away.
Well, thanks for joining us. We'll let you concentrate on the race. Great to see Lizzie Banks on our screen as well. Good luck to the team for the finish. Lizzie Banks there, as we, if you weren't with us a little bit earlier on, took 6th in the stage when we were up here at Burton Dassett last year. We then came back here for the men's tour as well. It was a beautiful sunny day when Matthew van der Poel took the stage up there. It was quite in stark contrast, Joe, to the conditions that we had when we came up here in the women's tour.
Yeah, it's funny. I always think it's amusing when the women's tour is in June and often seems to get the worst weather, and the men have got their race in September. So that's always quite funny when that happens. But always good racing either way, and I think just makes it even more interesting to watch when it is that brutal.
Yeah, this group's thinning down again. Story Racing looking good. Sarah Story, Corin Hall, all still in there. Lizzie Banks is looking good. You saw how relaxed she was looking. Joe, just trying to explain a little bit of our power data for anyone that might be tuning in that's new to all the numbers and the data that they're seeing on the screen. How can we translate this to sort of maybe simplify it a little bit?
Yeah, so on the left of the screen, we're seeing the watts per kilo that each rider is putting out. So the unit of power is watts. So that's what we use in cycling to measure sort of how hard you're pedaling. Your body mass in kilograms, it is quite obvious, and then your power to weight ratio is the number of watts you're putting out divided by your body mass in kilograms. So the way that works is on this software, if you are a very light rider, you'll probably be putting out less power output, but that will give you a better sort of watts per kilo. We can see on the top left of the screen there the actual raw power, top left, about 220, 217 watts there, the cadence and the heart rate. The watts per kilo figures are quite simply that power divided by the rider's body mass. So that sort of makes it more even for the different riders of different sort of body weights and body sizes, because that would affect things out on the road as well. So this software takes that into account. So basically the higher number that we're seeing in terms of watts per kilo, the harder that rider is trying. When you see sort of numbers over about 10 watts per kilo, that would be a sprint. So that would be like a sort of full gas sprint. At the moment, we're seeing most riders ride between sort of 3 and 4 watts per kilo, which is pretty hard. That's a sort of pretty hard tempo. And then it's always quite telling to watch those numbers. If you see a rider sort of go up quickly to sort of 8 watts per kilo, that will be them sort of accelerating on their turbo at home, about to put in a big attack.
And that magic number, whenever we're sprinting, I always found that hitting that 1,000 watts is when you're absolutely sprinting. If you're trying, there's our second group on the road. We're getting a nice shot of that. But when you're full-on sprinting, and we always talked about riders like Chris Hoy who could put out over 2,000 watts when he sprinted, but 1,000 watts was always that magic number.
Yeah, I think everyone always likes to see a sort of a 4-figure number there. for their peak power. But we have sort of moved more towards this sort of watts per kilo figure, which is sort of more telling of how you'll perform on the bike, out on the road, or on this sort of software when it is taken into account your body mass. So I think we'd all like to see sort of over 1,000 watts. That always is a pretty good sprint for anybody. But to win these races, it is about your body mass as well. And sort of if anybody that's putting out more than 10 watts per kilo is going pretty well. I think we even saw up to sort of 13 watts per kilo in the sprint yesterday for some riders.
And he's just trying to power a toaster. I think it's seeing Robert Forsterman powering a toaster and making some toast. That was impressive. You can search for that on YouTube if you want to see that. This is your chasing group. There's your green ŠKODA leaders jersey of Danny Christmas. So she is in this chasing group. The Leah Dixon, Sarah Story, and Lizzie Banks, Corinne Hall, Joss Loudon, all up there in that front group. There's Megan Barker, who's in this one. So Danny Christmas got some work to do here for Lotto Soudal. The gap now, Joe's up to just about 750 meters. Do you think that's closable? There's Danny in the second group. Do you think this group could come back here, or do you think at sort of 750 meters, nearly out to a K, that could be out of reach now?
I think realistically, probably out of reach. Though having said that, we're now down to less than 600 metres. We're seeing here between Danny Christmas and Sarah Story, so it is actually coming down as I speak. So normally, I'd say that would be too big a gap, but it also will vary when the riders that are up the road are hitting a climb. Obviously, that will slow them down. So we will sort of see it vary throughout the race. But actually, as I'm saying, that's now down to less than 500. So I could be proved completely wrong.
And on our screen, we've got Simon House from the CAMS Tifosi team. We've got Danny Christmas at the top of your screen, Katie Scott underneath. Simon, just checking in with you in terms of your riders in that leading group. Eilidh Gardner and Katie Scott putting in phenomenal performances over the last couple of days.
Yeah, it's a terrific performance. Obviously, we're delighted with today. It's it's a really tough route. So having two young riders, like you say, Eilidh and Katie, both under 20 and 19. So let's see what the finish brings. Exciting day for us.
And in terms of I was just talking about your team in terms of the development of young riders and seeing the pathway that you're developing for riders like Anna Henderson, who's now moved up to the World Tour with Team Sunweb. What's the plans for the team? Because sometimes as a team it can be bittersweet, can't it? Because you bring a rider through and you develop them and you feed them on. Have you got what's the big ultimate goal of the team now?
Yeah, as you say, I mean, this year, we've taken on CAMS Tifosi. We've got a 3-year deal at UCI level. We've got some good funding, so we've got 3 years where we can actually help riders progress, and who knows where we'll go to and how far we'll go. But we're creating a race program for them that riders will want to stay. And as I say, with the CAMS and the 3-year sponsorship deal, there's lots of opportunities for the riders to progress and to achieve great things.
Well, we're enjoying watching them racing. We'll let you get back to the action because we've got Lauren Stevens, who you can see at the top of your screen. The road is rising, and Lauren Stevens now is going on the attack here for Team TIBCO. Big move now by the American. And she had a good start to the year down in Australia, but this is a power move here, Joe. This looks to me like a race-winning bid for glory.
This is a huge move. So we saw the first time up this climb, she was leading that bunch and really stringing it out and got rid of a lot of riders, all on her own really, sort of really strung them out. Now she's gone solo, taken out over 40 metres over Lizzie Banks, who's currently second on the road. She has got two teammates there, Leah Dixon, British rider for Team TIBCO, and Kirsten Faulkner, both looking really strong in this group. But this is a big gap. We've still got over 12 kilometres to go, still one more time up this climb before we actually reach the finish, but she is showing she is clearly the strongest rider on this climb today. And as we look at those watts per kilo on the left, you can see it was over 8 watts per kilo there for Leah Dixon behind, and Lizzie Banks putting out some huge numbers as well. And we can see the effort on Lauren Stevens' face, and she really means business here.
She does. I think that's what's the beauty of this, the fact that we can see each rider, not just their little avatar on the screen, but we can see how hard they're working. And there is absolutely nowhere to hide in this racing, is there?
No, there isn't. It is absolutely brutal. And if you sort of freewheel for a moment and lose that momentum, you just very quickly lose contact. But look at this big move here by her teammate coming up behind her.
So Leah Dixon comes up to her and Lauren Stevens out of the saddle to react to her teammates. So this is a big move now from Team TIBCO Silicon Valley Bank, the team from the USA. They've got the British rider Leah Dixon in there and Lauren Stevens from the USA. So 2-up move now from Team TIBCO. We checked in with Rachel Hedeman, the director sportive, early on, and you can see they are definitely serious about this race. There's Leah Dixon on the left of your picture there. Got the headphones on. Got to have some maybe some power tunes going here as well, Joe, because that's always important when you're on the turbo.
Yeah, very much personal preference. So I think there's a lot of evidence to show that playing music can help you perform better on the bike, or whatever sport it is that you're doing. So a lot of riders will have quite interesting personal preference of sort of what they want to be hearing, what keeps them motivated. But both these riders working incredibly hard, seeing those faces. But actually, Lauren Stevens now looking a little bit more settled, and now we're seeing Faulkner there and Lizzie Banks trying to come across.
Good move now. So Team TIBCO trying to put 3 riders in our breakaway here. Kristen Faulkner reacts to the move now. Lizzie Banks gets just crosses that gap. So we have covered just under 24 kilometers. It clicks through there. 11.6 kilometers to go. There is your speed there. So just under 30 kilometers now. A big move again by Lizzie Banks to try and close this one down. The gap now back just over 100 meters, around that 100 meters mark to Eiley Gardner, Krista Dober-Hickok, Sarah Story, Katie Scott. You can see now is just over 200 meters down. A very select leading group that are off the front here. If you weren't with us yesterday, Danny Christmas took a sprint stage ahead of Eiley Gardner, who's in that chasing group. Amelia Sharp crossed the line in 3rd. Kristen Faulkner was 4th. Leah Dixon 5th. Then came Lizzie Banks, Joss Loudon, Leanne Ganter, who had a mechanical on the start line. Emma Norsgaard was 9th and Lizzie Holden was 10th yesterday. So you got your 2 leaders, Lauren Stevens and Leah Dixon, your 2 chasers, Kristen Faulkner and Lizzie Banks trying to come across, and then Lizzie Holden is about 30 meters from Biscaya Durango trying to close this gap down. This is a big move by Team TIBCO Silicon Valley Bank. They really are setting out the tactics now with on the final lap of this Burton Dassett circuit. A great move here, and the gap is growing. Katie Scott 350 meters now. Joe, Lizzie Banks, there's your 4 riders that are up there. Lizzie Banks, Lauren Stevens, Kristen Faulkner and Leah Dixon. Kristen's looking fairly comfortable here.
Yeah, Kristen Faulkner looking quite chilled. They're just taking an opportunity to have a little gel as well. Lauren Stevens also looking quite relaxed. Lizzie Banks working hard here, desperately trying to close that gap. Kristen Faulkner obviously got 2 teammates up the road, so was able to relax ever so slightly. But what impressive tactics here by Team TIBCO. Rachel Hedeman is a fantastic tactician, and it is brilliant to see all 3 riders from the team up there in this race, and Lizzie Banks fighting as hard as she can to close that gap.
Let's talk a little bit, because we saw Kristen Faulkner taking a gel, which Lauren Stevens you can see is drinking constantly as well. A little bit about fueling, in terms of pre-race fueling. Do you treat this the same as you would any other race? And then also in the race, how important those energy gels, getting some quick energy into the system on a race of about an hour?
Yeah, I would treat it the same as any other hour race that I've ridden. So anything like a crit or a time trial, I would be sort of having a bigger meal at least 3 hours before the start, if not a little bit longer before. As I got close to the race, perhaps a banana or something, and then definitely an energy gel. That's quite an interesting thing when you're racing in the evening. Do you really want to have a caffeine energy gel at this time in the evening and potentially not sleep at all tonight, which could be crucial, especially as it's a stage race. You know, you've got another stage to come tomorrow. So that's always an interesting one. But look here, we're seeing Lizzie Holden working ever so hard here to close that gap. How fantastic was that move?
Lizzie Holden closes it down. The two riders, Lizzie Banks, Kristen Faulkner, react to that one. So she's the Biscay-Durango rider from the Isle of Man. We now have 3 chasers. You saw just how hard she was having to work there to try and get up to this chasing group. She's got plenty of fans around her enjoying a beer while she's putting the effort in here. So 3 chasers, 3 teams represented in this group for Big Luck Katusha. Back to our leading group, Leah Dixon and Lauren Stevens. So it's about just over 100 meters between our 2 leaders and our 2 chasers. 8.7 kilometers to go. Right, Joe, stage predictions. Who's going to take this one?
I am going to go Leah Dixon.
Okay.
How about you?
Okay. Let's have a look at this group. So I think these two are going to stay away. The gap is definitely opening. Okay, if you're going with Leah, I'm going to take Lauren then. I'm going to say these two are going to stay away. The gap is opening to over 200 meters now as Kristen Faulkner puts in an attack there. Everyone's going to have to react to this one. So you take Leah, I'll take Lauren, and then this chasing group will get up there and one of them will take it. That's always how this works, isn't it?
Commentator's curse.
It always is. Welcome aboard. Thanks for joining us. If you're just tuning in, stage 2 of the ŠKODA V Women's Tour. We're heading up to the finish, 35.7 kilometers at Burton Dassett. It's a 1.7 kilometer climb. It's 4.9% average gradient. Always gives us a great finish in the Women's Tour. And a big move now. We've got the Cams Tifosi rider, Eiley Gardner, that's now latched onto this group. Absolutely, and there's Sarah's story. So these chasers have come back to them. So this group is swelling in numbers. So Sarah's story, Eiley Gardner make contact with this chasing group, and Krista Dobell-Hickok is also there. This is what they needed, Joe. I would say that the chasing group just starting to get a little bit fatigued. They needed to get onto those 2 leaders, and they needed to get onto them quickly. They've got some reinforcements now.
Yes, they have. So a bit of a bigger group here now, but some riders have put in some serious effort to close that gap. So we saw Lizzie Holden on the screen earlier. She's top left there now. She put in a huge effort to close that gap. A lot of fans there, nice bit of atmosphere. So I think that's always going to help when you're racing on the turbo. But yeah, a lot of effort put in by those riders to sort of close that gap to that chase group. And now still a lot of work to do, over 200 metres to our leaders.
So working nicely together are our 2 leaders. You just saw Kristen Faulkner at the bottom of your screen. Lauren Stevens and Leah Dixon working nicely together. We'll just have a look down the top 10 here. So Corinne Hall is just over 600 meters down on the group. So after Kristen Faulkner and those chasers, they've just got to take a moment just to almost hear Joe, just over 7 kilometers to go. Take that opportunity, maybe take a drink if they've got a gel, a little bit of energy, because again, this race just went from the gun and it has been totally relentless right from the off.
It really has. So the final climb is 1.7 kilometers long. We're just about to dip under 7k to go, so you've really got sort of climb, and that is when the absolute biggest effort is going to be. So there'll be some riders thinking about that already, but you can't think about it too much because you've got to be in it to win it. And currently 2 riders up the road, over 200 meter gap, 2 teammates working well together, which is really impressive to be able to do that on this virtual software as nicely as they are. So these riders have got to put, the riders in the chase group have got to put in some serious effort if they are going to have any chance of closing that gap and competing for the win.
There's your power data in the top of your picture. So the heart rate spinning at just under 90 revs per minute. So if you're out there and you do your spinning classes, you'll know the sort of cadence that you sort of ride when you're in those sort of spin classes and that kind of thing. If you're tuning in and watching this for the first time, our British rider though, Leah Dixon. British fans, if you're out and you're familiar with the domestic scene, she's 28 and she took a stage and the general classification last year in the Tour of the Reservoir. That was a race you used to enjoy, the Tour of the Res, didn't you?
Yeah, I may have also won a stage of the Tour of the Reservoir. My brother's won it overall as well. So fond memories of that race. Absolutely terrible weather last time I raced there. I think it was actually snowing. and we were finishing and we were wrapping ourselves up in blankets on the podium. But I think it's actually moved to later in the calendar, obviously not taking place this year, unfortunately, but has been a fantastic race, part of the British scene for many, many years, and yeah, very much a rider favourite.
Danny Christmas, our leader, you can see there just over about 300 metres down on this group. There's the back of that group, so Lizzie Holden, Kristen Faulkner, Lizzie Banks, Sarah Story, all still working nicely together. 5.5 kilometres to go, sitting at just over 46 kilometres an hour, and we've been racing for just coming up to 45 minutes. 341 metres we've climbed so far. This is the second of 3 stages of this year's virtual women's tour. Thanks all of you for joining us. Tomorrow's final stage is going to be a 1 kilometre circuit, 35 laps of that Canary Wharf circuit in London. So you will not want to miss that one. Rachel, Director Sportif of Team TIBCO. This is a mighty performance from the team here. Very impressive.
Yeah, they've raced together a fair bit on virtually, probably more virtually actually than on the road. So yeah, it's pretty cool to be able to see this kind of teamwork on a virtual platform.
And in terms of the finish, because when you come into a finish with your teammates, we're just inside 5 kilometres to go. There's gonna be no gifts here, is it? This is gonna be an impressive final 5K and sprint up this final climb, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's going to be hard for everybody that's in the top 10 at the moment. You know, I mean, it's been a brutal race so far, and yeah, that final climb is just going to be the icing on the cake. I think it's going to be very hard for everybody. Everybody's going to be having to give it everything they've got.
We've got 2 riders in the lead. Can Kristen, that's what you've got to hope here. You've got to hope that you can completely take the podium here.
Well, I mean, yeah, that would definitely be a very good way to finish the stage. Obviously, Kristen has the advantage in that group of being able to sit on, but sitting on a virtual platform is not quite the same as it is on the road. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how she gets on. But yeah, I mean, being able to sweep the podium would be a fantastic result.
Well, we'll let you enjoy the final few kilometres, and hopefully we can catch up with you afterwards. We're loving watching them race. We're just seeing now Sarah Story now making a move to try and make a last-ditch effort to try and get on. It's 250 metres is the gap between our 2 leaders, Leah Dixon and Lauren Stevens from TIBCO Silicon Valley Bank. Dame Sarah Story, Eiley Gardner, Lizzie Banks, Krista Dobell-Hickox, Lizzie Holden and Kristen Faulkner are your chasing group, and Danny Christmas, our winner of the stage yesterday and our overall leader, is chasing hard from that group behind. They got a lot as Kristen Faulkner comes up, maybe try and get away. What do you think, Joe? Do you think they could do 1, 2, 3 here?
I think they could. I mean, seeing the shots of Kristen Faulkner on her turbo trainer, she is looking very in control. We're seeing her avatar just accelerate up the side there of this group. Having said that, Sarah Story will really relish this sort of finish. So there's a lot of riders going really well here. Lizzie Banks as well. We know how motivated she is. I think that the leading 2 riders are going to stay away now. 240 metre gap. About 3.5 kilometres to go. Of course, that final climb, 1.7 kilometres, and we've seen how strong those leading 2 riders are, getting away on that climb on the previous lap. So very much all to play for that podium spot with those riders behind, and it's very hard to call which way that could go.
It is indeed. There's the great aerial shot here of our 2 leaders from the TIBCO Silicon Valley Bank, a team that's been around now for many years, has done a great job developing many riders over the years. The team from the USA, Lauren Stevens, as I said, started well earlier on in the year, just missed out on the podium in the Torquay Classic down in Australia. And she's had stage wins in the Turingen Rundfahrt race, which is another very prestigious stage race on the women's pro calendar. There's some of your chasers. Krista Dobell-Hickok, Dame Sarah Story, Eileen Gardner and Kristen Faulkner. Just see how comfortable Kristen looks. Her two teammates are up the road. As Joe said, she can sit on a little bit in this group, and the work being done by the rest of that group. But that final climb is ahead of us, so don't forget the climb up to Burton Dassett is 1.7 kilometres, 4.9%. This is going to be a great battle between these two riders on that climb. What's your feeling here, Joe? The run in towards that climb, it can be quite deceptive, can't it? The way it sort of rises and then sweeps round up towards the finish. You've got to time it quite well.
Yeah, so we're just seeing well, it's -7% gradient here for the chasing group, but for the front two riders, it was about -1%. So the top right-hand corner of your screen is showing the gradient there, right at the very top. So yeah, at the moment, won't be having to ride too hard. We can just look at the stats on the left though. So over 5 watts per kilo, Lauren Stevens was putting out there, slightly lower there for Leah Dixon. So will be really interesting as they approach this climb how this will play out between the two teammates.
Eileen Gardner from Camston Fossies, the British rider, still in that chasing group. Lauren Stevens is on the front, Leah Dixon right behind her, latching onto the wheel. So we're going to start the final climb up towards the finish. Will one of these riders go long in this finishing sprint? It looks like here that our winner is coming from this leading group. And the chasing group behind, just over 220 metres down. There's Rachel Hederman at the top of your picture, Leah Dixon and Lauren Stevens right below those. So the two riders here be able to see each other on their screen and react to that one. Stevens, little move here, just opening up a few metres over her teammate. Is this the move now from Lauren Stevens? We saw her do it. She's had a commanding ride up this climb every time that we have hit it, but Leah Dixon rides back on to her teammate. Is she going to go now? Leah Dixon, you see her avatar just start to accelerate, but Lauren Stevens just brings it back. 1 kilometre to go. It's neck and neck at the moment between these two riders. Who's going to be the first to make their move? They're looking good here.
Yes, the gradient is going to just get steeper and steeper. As we can see up ahead, the road really ramps up, currently just over 2%, but it will ramp up a lot more in the next few metres. 800 metres to go now, and this is going to be interesting.
You can just see Rachel, the director sportive, talking to her two riders. So Dixon is on the front, Stevens behind her. Just passing a few riders static on the road. 600 metres to go now. Dixon starts to put in some power, just starting to open a few metres, 5 metres. Stevens has got to react here to try and come back to her. The gradient here, Joe, this is where it starts to kick.
Yeah, it is really kicking now, and Leah Dixon pulling out 8 or 9 metres there over her teammate, looking very impressive, but 500 metres to go at this sort of gradient, 11% currently, is a very long way.
And here's your chasing group, who Lizzie Banks on the front, Lizzie Holden, Krista Dobell-Hickok, Kristen Faulkner, Eileen Gardner and Sarah Story. Those are your chasers. Dixon just starting to pull out a gap, just under 10 metres. Stevens has got to battle back here. Dixon, the power is on. 400 metres to go now up towards the finish. Leah Dixon, and now the gap opens to 15, 16 metres. She's starting to open this one. Dixon, look at the power at the top of your screen here. Stevens is trying to react. She put in the big turns the first time up the climb to really split this one. Look at the power here, Joe.
Yeah, this is incredible. Over 400 watts we're seeing on the top left of the screen there. Over 7 watts per kilo, 7.6 watts per kilo just then we saw. 200 metres to go. You can see that avatar out the saddle. You can see the effort on both riders' faces. Lauren Stevens not letting this go at all, but Leah Dixon pulling out over 45 metres now.
Look at that. She can see the finish banner ahead of her now. 100 metres to go. It's going to be a win for the British rider Leah Dixon from TIBCO Silicon Valley Bank. manages to distance her teammate, puts nearly 100 meters into her towards the line, but Leah Dixon crosses the line to take the stage. Impressive riding from the TIBCO team. Lauren Stevens crosses the line and takes second place, and then the sprint will start from the group behind.
Yeah, we can see the watts per kilo there. Lizzie Holden putting out some serious power. Kristen Faulkner as well, challenging there for the third place.
And Lizzie Holden is the rider there that takes the third spot on the podium. Just prevents Team TIBCO from taking a clean sweep of the podium there. Lizzie Holden from Biscaya-Duranga, the rider from the Isle of Man, takes third spot. Fourth place for Kristen Faulkner. Lizzie Banks crosses the line in fifth. Krista Dobell-Hickok just crossing there in sixth, ahead of Eiley Gardner and Sarah Story. And then Danny Christmas, our overall leader. That was a good finish there by Danny Christmas, on her own, closing that gap down to try and keep her hopes alive tomorrow.
Yeah, impressive ride there by Danny. So we saw her distance early on. Not quite sure if there were any technical issues or anything, but she fought the whole way throughout that stage. And just getting inside the top 10 there with 9th place. Very, very impressive riding by her.
Katie Scott and Corinne Hall just riding up the climb to the finish. A great stage that we've had here on stage 2 of the ŠKODA V Women's Tour. So we've got our top 10. Katie Scott, will she take the 10 spot here? Can Corinne Hall battle back? And we know what Corinne is like. She will want to try and take the 10th place here. Katie Scott, though, just opening up about 20 meters. Corinne battling to try and take a 10th spot for Story Racing, but Katie Scott is going to hang on to take that 10 spot. Corinne closes her right down on the line, but there you have it. There's our top 10, and Corinne Hall in 11th. We're going to go to our winner, Leah Dixon. Leah, let's take us through that final lap there. Impressive ride there by you and Lauren Stevens. So she's just turning her fan off so that we can hear her. Leah, take us through that. That was some ride by you and Lauren Stevens. Take us through that breakaway. Can you hear me now, Leah? No, take us through that finish with you and Lauren Stevens.
It was just the perfect race, really. We had talked about it on the team call beforehand. Me and Lauren had discussed tactics earlier on in the day around what we thought would happen. We thought that maybe we could sell the group down a bit on the first lap, and then depending on who was in the group on the second lap, we would try and maybe go hard to reduce the group further. And then Lauren obviously attacked, got a really big gap, and then came over our race radios and was, if someone can come across to me now. And I just went all in, got over to her, stayed on a wheel for a bit for recovery, and then we just did some really great teamwork to work together.
It was a fantastic team performance. Well done, Leah. And we look forward to seeing you in action tomorrow. And we'll go to our second place rider, Lauren Stevens. Lauren, right from the gun there, impressive ride the first time up that climb, and you really split the group.
Can you hear me? Oh, hi.
We can hear you now.
Okay, cool. Sorry.
That's okay. Just
I split the group up the climb that first time. That was our plan, to get the group smaller and see what we could do from there.
And in terms, for anyone that's never had a go on one of the smart trainers, how realistic is the climb? Because when the camera came back to you, you could see how hard you were having to work against that grade. And how realistic is it?
Yeah, it's quite realistic.
Okay, well, great ride today. You just missed out on a 1-2-3 today. Lizzie Holden just out sprinting your teammate for the finish. Just look quickly before we let you go. Tomorrow's stage, a flat criterium. Looking at how this race has gone so far, that's going to be a fairly brutal affair, I would say. I think we've lost Lauren. Apologies for that. So we'll let her go. Joe, we'll go straight to our third place rider. Let's go and chat to Lizzie Holden. Lizzie, great sprint to take third spot on the podium. We saw you throughout that one. Great chase to get into that chasing group.
Hello?
Hello, Lizzie, can you hear me now? Impressive ride there to take that third spot on the podium. Great ride big chase to get into that chasing group, though.
Yeah, I thought it was just like the 3 climbs which were going to be the hardest, so I knew if I could get over them, then I'd probably be okay, but they were pretty savage.
And in terms of looking ahead to tomorrow, the crit stage tomorrow, looking at how the race has gone so far, that looks like that's gonna be tough tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely, and it's quite cool how real it is, like with the drafting and stuff on RGT. So it'll be interesting to see how that works.
Well, great ride today. Well done. Thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing you in action again tomorrow.
Thank you.
Joe, that was a phenomenal stage, wasn't it? The tactics there from Team TIBCO, it really paid off for them.
Yeah, it was brutal racing with that climb, with those really steep gradients, but it was really fascinating to see some team tactics playing out in virtual reality there for the first real time that we've seen that properly in this stage race. So brilliant tactics there by Team TIBCO, taking first, second and fourth. Obviously incredibly strong rides by all of their riders, showing how strong they are on these virtual climbs, but it really was fascinating to see the teammates working together and that work paying off.
And that chasing group as well, the likes of Sarah Story and Eileen Gardner, I think every ride that she does, she seems to just impress more and more.
Yeah, really impressive ride there by the young British rider. I was also particularly impressed with Lizzie Holden, the Manx rider, closing that gap to those chasing groups on her own, seeing lots of support around her in her pain cave, lots of people cheering her on. So that was a huge effort and a very well-deserved third place as well there.
Well, great days of racing. We have one more stage to go tomorrow. Make sure you join us for that. From Joanna Rousel and myself, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.